So welcome to the second video. This video is about the 8 limbs of yoga. So how does yoga help us? What is yoga and how does it help us reduce stress? So yoga is kind of perhaps known in our modern society through the asanas or the poses. But actually, according to the ancient scriptures of yoga, there's kind of more to it than that. So there's 8 limbs of yoga according to these scriptures, and these are like values. These are like guidelines for living a sort of morally disciplined life, or if you like, how to keep on path according to these beautiful, wise values. So it's more than just the poses. If we embrace the values of yoga, these can help us live a really meaningful, happy and contented life. So you'll see here, there's actually more than just the poses. So here is some yoga values that I've put together that are kind of really relevant for modern day life. So I've summarized the ancient values of yoga into these key headings here. And you will see here that there is yoga, the asanas. So asana is the name for the Sanskrit name, the ancient Indian name for poses. So if I ever use the word asana, that just means pose. So you can see there's the poses and the breath. That's what you might know as yoga in modern day society. But according to the ancient scriptures, there's all these other things that you can see here. So the ancient scriptures said that the 8 limbs of yoga, and I'll have to read them to make sure I get them right. These wise values were samadhi, yamas, the niyamas, the asanas, the poses, the pranayama, the breath, pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, dharana, and dhyana, meditative absorption. So these are some values that have been studied for thousands of years. So I'm not going to get into that any more than that, but it's quite important to know that this is drawn from my yoga texts, and then I have summarized it into these things to help us understand it in modern day context. So first of all, what is the purpose of yoga? So the purpose of yoga is to reduce the fluctuations of the mind. So we do the asanas, the poses, and we connect to our breath to help, that's sort of like a vehicle to help us find inner clarity and calm. So when we get stressed, it affects our immune system, and it affects our breath, and it affects our general state of health. And usually we assume, there's a nice horn outside, usually we assume that the causes of stress are external. But actually stress is our mind's reaction to an event. And so the way yoga helps us is that we see this as an opportunity. So yoga helps us change our inner world or develop our inner world and change our state of mind. So when we experience stress, we can go inwards and use these inner tools. So instead of changing the world around us when things aren't going our way, which kind of is sort of how we want to do it, we want to make sure that person behaves like that, and I don't want this thing to stop my business or my income to stop. With COVID that's just happened, maybe these things in our external world have made us realize that actually all we truly have control over is our internal world. So yoga sees this as an opportunity. We can change our state of mind. So when you look at these values, these yoga values, these are like how our organization has core values or principles, or like a strategic direction, if you want to use those words. Haven't used those words in a few years now. I like to think of these values as like guidelines for helping us live purposefully. So, yoga obviously is much more than the poses, but the poses are a beautiful tool and one of the most important tools. It's just like having, something in your handbag to pull out when you need it. You're like, oh yeah, that's right, I can go back to these values and these tools that I know will help me feel inner peace and inner calm. So, yoga is about clarity of mind and inner peace. So in this course, I might use words interchangeably, like inner peace, presence, awareness, being conscious, or even referring to our bigger sense of self. So all of these words basically mean the same thing: inner peace and calm and clarity, which is the purpose of yoga. So yoga is the poses, it's also developing wisdom, it's living your truth, it's learning and personal growth, really important. Having a commitment to wanting to get a little bit better. Kindness, living simply in simplicity. It's contentment. How do we find and feel that? So you can see there's some common themes here. It's taking responsibility for our thoughts, actions, and behaviors. So no one else can do this work for us, but it's great that you're here on this course, because that's what we're here to do, is to cultivate some great habits. And it's solution focused, this course. So these values of yoga are really wonderful ways to think of opportunities in our life. So it's not so much, we're not going to talk too much about delving into the past, childhood wounds or anything like that. I believe we can focus on the present, and we have everything we need right now to cultivate more awareness and contentment and to live a really wonderful, fulfilling life. So I hope you've enjoyed this overview of the 8 limbs of yoga, and in the next videos we're going to go into each value in depth to help us really understand it. Thank you very much for listening.